Hey everybody, it's Chris and I am back. I've kind of taken a break from a lot of painting. We've had a lot of projects going on and we took a vacation and have been working on the house and the gardens, and now that it's a little bit cooler, hopefully I can get back to my studio and spend a little more time with you guys. I wanted to share a project with you today that I'm doing for Christmas this year. I went to Michael's last night and they had these wood ornaments and they're a snowflake, which I really love snowflakes. But what I thought was super cool with this is that it kind of has like this little cutout, if you will, has kind of a well. And I thought, wow, that would be really cool if I poured resin with glitter in there. So I bought a bunch of them and I've done a couple of them already, but I thought I would share with you how I'm doing it. They are wood. They are like several layers, but this top layer, the frame, if you will, is glued down. So I was able to put resin and glitter in there and it didn't leak out. They were $2 each. Right now they're 40% off. The Michaels that I went to in West Des Moines, Iowa, had plenty of them, and I will see if I can find a link online for purchasing those, maybe online, and you can just order them if you can't find them at your local Michaels. As always with holiday stuff, I would get there as soon as possible so that you can get some of these because, as you know, stuff just doesn't last. So what I did is I used my heat gun to remove the price tag. And then the other thing that I did is I don't want this little hanger on here. Number one, I'm not a huge fan of jute, and I think for what I'm doing, it kind of elevates it past a jute hanger. So I did take those off, and how I did that was I just kind of held this and supported this top piece where the jute is, and I just pulled, and that allowed me to pull the top staple out. And then I pulled the twine out of it, and then I have some tiny little needle nose pliers, and I just went in and kind of grabbed that staple and pulled it right out. So that made my little ornaments flat so that I was able to put them on a sheet pan and get ready to pour them. So I'm using Counterculture DIY resin, and you guys have heard me talk about this before. This is my all-time favorite resin. I don't think that it's expensive. I feel like it's at a really good price point. It is the one resin that I've used that has not caused hives or issues with my skin that other resins have. So I really love this resin. I'll put a coupon code. If you use the coupon code Chris, K-R-I-S-S, it's good for $5 off of a $40 purchase on their website. But I'm using the artist resin, and I use the artist resin for everything. I use it for my coasters. I use it for projects like this. I've used it when I made tumblers. I just think it's a great all-around resin. I've also used it on canvases. So it's my preference. I think it works great for everything that I want to do, but they do have other ones. They have like a thinner viscosity, a thicker viscosity. So they definitely have different ones that you can use, but I use the artist resin and it seems to work really well for me. So as you know, resin has two parts. Part A is the thicker part, and I have that over here in my little water bath. I put hot water in here and I kind of put that in there and measured it out before I started the video, just so that it could warm up a bit. It's a little bit cooler in my studio right now since it's winter. With this, I want to do a little bit of my little piggies, this little piggy. So this is an interference powder. It's called rose quartz, and when it catches the light, it kind of changes color. And I was like, kind of thinking it might be kind of cool to put a little bit of this in with the glitter itself. I'm going to use the Louisiana Lace. This is a Mr. Nola's glitter, and it kind of has that pink shimmer too. So I thought I would do some with this white, and then I'll show you some of the other ones that I've done. But I found that if you mix up 2 ounces of resin, that it's enough to do 4 snowflakes. So as you can see, I'm kind of doing larger quantities because I have a lot of people that I want to give these to. So I've got my little measuring cups. These are my little 1 ounce medicine cups. Now I went all the way up to the top of it. So that's actually going to be a little bit more than 1 ounce. If you look at the sides of the cup, the 1 ounce is actually kind of right. Let me see if I can point to it. It's right up like where the popsicle stick is. So it's actually, I've got a little bit more in here. And what I have off to the side is my little reverse alphabet. So if I do have extra resin, I'm just going to pop it into one of my molds and one of my little alphabets, and then I'll make a keychain out of that or something. So I warm my resin up, and just to get it to kind of flow a little bit better. And I've got little medicine cups, and I keep these separated so that I know which one is part A and which one is part B. And then I can continue to reuse those. I've got just a little popsicle stick here, and I can tell you this is already more resin than what I've been using. So I'm definitely going to get some little alphabet out of this too, which is okay. All right, so I'm just gonna go ahead and mix this. You'll mix it for 3 minutes. So let me pause and I'll mix this up real quick, and then I'll be right back and I'll show you how I'm going to mix in my glitters and such. Okay, so I have my resin all mixed up. The instructions do say 3 minutes. I have found if I'm working with a smaller amount like this, sometimes it does come together much quicker. What I'm looking for is for it to be clear, which it's kind of hard to tell with all those little bubbles in there. But if you have it in the right light, you can tell that I've got all the pieces and particles mixed together here. So to this, I want to add some of the rose quartz little piggy powder. And this does have kind of a white sheen to it. And I want to be careful because you don't want to overload the resin and get too much product, if you will, too many things to mix into it. Because if you get too much of the product of pigments or glitter or whatever it is, it does tend to seize up much quicker, and then you won't be able to work with it. So I'm just going to go ahead and mix this in a little bit. You can see that the light's already catching that rose pigment, and you can kind of see the pink. I'm just going to go ahead and mix this up real quick in here because I don't want my glitter to, I don't want the resin, or excuse me, I don't want the pigment to be chunks in there. So hopefully you can kind of see that pink interference. Oh, this is going to be pretty. Okay, and then I'm going to take my Louisiana lace. And what I found with the other ones that I did is that you want enough glitter in there so that you don't have just clear glitter, or excuse me, you want enough glitter mixed in so that you don't have clear resin. Now with this having the pigment powder in it, it's probably going to make a difference and it won't be as big of a deal, but you kind of want quite a bit of glitter in there because that's kind of the purpose of this, is to have this really beautiful glitter to kind of shine through with the resin. So I think that looks pretty good. I'm going to add just a tiniest bit more. I think that I kind of lost a little bit of the beauty because I put that pigment powder in there, but I think in the end it's going to be really beautiful, and I think it'll be just fine. So how I did this, I've got it all mixed up. The easiest way that I found to do it, let me move these guys into view for you. So what I did was I just used my stir stick. Originally I thought I needed to pour it in, and I thought, how am I going to get that in there without being a mess? So I just take an amount on my stir stick, and I start up here at the bigger areas of the snowflake and just start to layer it in. This kind of reminds me of like an opal in a way with that pigment powder in there. So I kind of add as I go. You can see that it's pretty thick now because I've added that glitter in there. So you just kind of have to be patient and work with it, kind of let it flow where it needs to go. Do not overfill them though, because my tendency on the first ones were to overfill because I was like, oh my gosh, it's not going up into all the little areas. Have to remember that we will heat this to get rid of the bubbles, and that will help it to fill in and kind of level out, if you will. So I'm just going to continue to do this. And as I said, this should be enough to do 4. So let me finish filling this guy up, and then I will show you how to take the bubbles out. Okay, so I've got these guys filled up, and remember how I said you don't want to overfill them. It's much easier to go back and add a little bit in versus trying to take it back out. Ask me how I know. So as you can see over here, I've got kind of some little voids, and so I just take a little bit on my popsicle stick and just fill in that little spot, and then I can come back and do my heat, and I think it'll all level out just fine. So just going to kind of add in a little bit there where I've got a little bit of a low spot. And then we're ready to use the heat gun. You can see that I still have a little bit of resin left in here, so I will use that for my letters. But let me go ahead and get these heated so we can make sure that they're all filled up before I take the resin and use it for something else. So I'm using my Wagner heat gun, and I'll have it on the highest setting for heat. I'm just gonna go over this and then pop the bubbles. And I'm gonna see if I can kind of hold this up so you can see just how it's kind of almost foamy looking, but I kind of want you to see like how it just clears up as soon as I hit it with the heat. So let me see if I can hold on to it. I'm gonna work on this one here and see, hopefully I can show you exactly what I'm talking about. See how that cleared up and now it's not as cloudy looking? I'm gonna go ahead and set this down and then I'm gonna finish heating up the other ones. All right, so the other thing I will say too with resin, and I think especially with this one, if I hold these up, you can kind of see where I feel like it's still a little bit cloudy. So with resin, I always heat it once and then I will come back and heat it again. Right now, I'm just kind of looking to make sure that everything is nice and level. I actually did pretty good on these and I didn't overfill. So what I'm gonna do is let these sit to the side for just a few minutes and then I'm gonna come back. Hopefully some of the bubbles have risen up so that I can kind of get rid of that cloudiness. But I think these are gonna be really beautiful and they really remind me of opal. And I'm hoping that once they're dry, you'll really see that. So I'm gonna set these guys to the side and then I'll be back to show you how I'm going to finish them off. Okay, so I thought I would show you how I finished these off. I had purchased these Christmas hooks at Hobby Lobby, and honestly, I bought them a couple of months ago just because I know from past experience, these things seem to sell out really quickly. So I knew that I would probably be making some ornaments this year. I love to make ornaments and give them as gifts. So I was kind of planning ahead with that. Since these are wood, I used just this tiny little eyelet that has, let me get it in view for you, that has some threads on it. And what I did was find the center of my snowflake and I decided to put it on the shorter part of the snowflake. So what I did was kind of find the center. Because these are made from pine, it's a pretty soft wood. And so I just kind of took this and found the center and kind of started to turn it until it would, started to turn it a little bit until it actually kind of stuck in the wood, if you will. So you can see that there. And then I have some tiny little pliers and I just kind of grabbed the, see if I can get this in the right view for you. I just kind of grabbed the little eyelet and kind of pushed against the wood and turned at the same time. Okay, so don't do that, but it does happen. All right, so I just found the center of my snowflake. I took my little pliers and pushed my little eyelet into the wood and started to turn it and just kept putting pressure on it until it actually kind of grabs a hold of the wood. Now, it's not very hard to get them turned in once you get it started. Honestly, the hardest part is to get the little eyelet started. So I've got it started now, and now I can just use my fingers and just turn it and screw it all the way into the snowflake. Now, the reason I wanted to use these little eyelets is because I want my snowflake to hang straight. So with this little eyelet, I have the option of, you know, if I wanted to leave it straight on like this, it's not going to hang straight once I get the hook on, but I can turn it another quarter turn so that my eyelet is kind of straight up and down. And then by the time I put my hook on it, and I like to use this little curlicue part as the bottom of it. So this way it will hang straight on the tree versus having it kind of swing to the side so that you won't be able to see that beautiful glitter. So I really think that these will look beautiful on the tree because of the glitter that's in them. If I kind of hold this so that the light catches it. I'm sorry, it's a little bit darker out now, so I had to turn my lights on in my studio. But you can kind of see the sparkle, and that's was my thought with using the resin with the glitter, is that you would have that sparkle that's going to catch the light on the trees. So this is one of the other colors that I had done. I just thought I'd show you kind of some examples. This was a really pretty kind of, it actually looked very pink in the package. And then once I got it on the snowflake, it looks a little bit more purple. And there's a little bit of gold flake in there too. So I would just encourage you, if you have glitter already, find something that you already own. Don't go out and purchase something. Use the craft supplies that you have in your possession. These little eyelets, I bought these off of Amazon. You can find them at any hardware store though, and they're really inexpensive, but it makes it really nice since this is a wood snowflake that it will actually screw into that so that you have a nice secure hanger for the hook that you decide to use. And then I'm going to show you, this is not completely dry, but this is the one that I showed you in the video, and you can see that it's definitely got some sparkle, and it really does remind me of opal. And I think, you know, at first I thought that this was kind of cloudy in the center, but I think really what it is that there's just, you know, that glitter is just so prominent right there in the center. And I think it kind of has an opal effect anyway. So I think that's kind of why it looked a little bit cloudy, but in person, they're really beautiful. I think this is probably kind of one of my favorites that I did. And it just kind of was a mistake. I was like, well, let's try it and see what happens. So don't be afraid to try things. If you don't like how it turns out, then switch gears and try something else. So I hope you'll try this. Please let me know if you have any questions. I will put the links to CCDIY down in my description of the video so that if you'd like to try that resin, or they have some beautiful glitters on their website as well. You can try some glitters, you can try some resin. They also have silicone molds. So this little alphabet mold that I used for my leftover resin, this also came from CCDIY. So these are just really fun, and when they come out, they just look really cool. So I love to have little magnets and different things to share with people. So that's kind of a fun little mold to have when you are using resin to use up your extras. All right, guys, if you have any questions, please let me know. Thank you so much for watching today, and I'll catch you next time. Bye-bye.